Hello, greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about Copaganda. Now, over the last year, myself and the majority of other media people have been focused on the plight of the working class, the cost of living, and COVID, especially as it's gone up and down in waves, and those waves have been directly affecting the material conditions and day-to-day reality of the working class and their cost of living. Now, while we have all been taking care of that, everything else that normally goes on in the world has still been happening. And what I wanted to do today was to remind you of two very important things. Number one, while we have all been focused on this, the police are still out there doing exactly what they do, which is killing unarmed people. And of course, the number of people they kill every year has stayed consistent over the last decade, regardless of pandemic conditions. Now, the second thing I wanted to remind you about is that while we have all been focused and the media has been really drilled in on workers and strikes and all that other stuff, and the police have been out killing people, they have also been working on their media savvy, and they have been going out of their way to launch a multi-pronged approach to making sure that people out there think that all is well in police land and they've learned their lessons and they really love people now and, they're all into maintaining people's rights and solving problems without using a gun. And it's kind of all bullshit. So I thought I would take a look at 3 different ways the police are working on perfecting their Copaganda game while the rest of us are distracted with our day-to-day reality. So buckle up, kids, because of course, this is going to suck out loud. Here we go! Stop number 1 on our Copaganda tour. Major media outlets can't stop describing police violence as officer-involved incidences. Following the murder of George Floyd, the Associated Press issued guidance that reporters should not describe instances where police shot someone with neutral language. It didn't work. Wow, so there's 2 shockers there. Shocker number 1 is that I didn't even notice a difference in the coverage of police shootings, and ergo number 2, I wouldn't have known it didn't work because I didn't even know they were trying it in the first place. For the record, this is something that has been going on for a long time. The number 1 source of Copaganda is when the police write out press releases, give it to the media, and the media just type it up word for word. Yeah, this is how you control the narrative of any situation so you can get the jump on the PR for when the actual facts of the shooting come out days later from some random pedestrian cell phone footage. Huffington Post and the Garrison Project decided to examine how often reporters have used those phrases. They counted the number of times officer involved and similar police involved appeared in articles. The articles came from 35 major newspapers chosen to represent the largest outlets, the AP, the New York Times, and USA Today among them, as well as local daily papers from across the country. So what they did was a word search using LexisNexis, which is a very large database of publications, and they basically did a word find to see how often that term was used in an article to describe a police shooting. The results were disheartening. Usage of officer involved rose steadily through the 2000s, with an average of 22 uses of officer involved per month, with the phrase appearing at least once in 5% of all articles in the year 2000. By 2010, there was an average of 34 uses per month, with the phrase appearing once in 11% of all articles about police violence. Into the early 2010s, usage increased more rapidly and remained high later in the decade. In 2013, 15% of all articles about police violence surveyed used officer involved at least once. Are you starting to see the trend here? It's almost as if the police have been going out of their way to just beat this square narrative into a round hole. And that round hole is local media, who very often get threatened with revocation of their access to city hall, police stations, and all sorts of fun things in their local area. And so Police press releases, more often than not, get copied verbatim and thrown into the middle of a news article with a headline echoing whatever sentiment the police were pushing in the aforementioned press release. According to the Columbia Journalism Review, officer-involved shooting first appeared in newspapers in the early 1970s, likely because the LAPD adopted it and police quickly institutionalized the phrase. Reporters took their cues from the police, who routinely use officer-involved shooting and the acronym OIS, and the phrase was adopted by newspapers where they worked as well. Decades later, the phrases came under scrutiny from activists and reporters during the headiest days of the Black Lives Matter era from 2014 to 2016, which saw the police killings of Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Philando Castile, Freddie Gray, Alton Sterling, and thousands of others. In 2014, an op-ed which appeared in the Washington Post Opinions, Radley Balco wrote that, quote, officer-involved shooting is a way of describing a shooting without assigning responsibility. And that is what I mean by controlling the narrative. When the first few instances of the description of an event are in a very neutral, passive language, like officer-involved shooting, it tends to make people just think it's run-of-the-mill. Oh, somebody was threatening to the police and they got theirs. Oh, it was an officer-involved shooting. Run-of-the-mill. Let's see what's on the next page of the paper. And that's the entire idea behind institutionalizing its usage and then continuing to increase that over the decades. And now, stop number 2 on our Copaganda tour. Police departments are making their own cops videos counteracting police brutality depicted on social media. Officers across the U.S., under fire as videos posted to social media hold them accountable, are creating slickly produced YouTube vlogs to boost morale, public support, and aid in recruitment. Seriously, the second part of that sentence, that's literally the definition and purpose of the term Copaganda. In posting dozens or hundreds of hours of content on a regular schedule, police departments are essentially turning themselves into multimedia publishing platforms. They use Twitter to break the news, Facebook Live to give press conferences, Nextdoor to track and respond to neighborhood issues, Instagram to diffuse tension with positive counter-programming, TikTok to reach Gen Z, and long YouTube videos to provide ongoing entertainment and education. Wow, the police have literally become content creators. That's right, all that money that keeps going into all these police departments and their billion-dollar budgets. Yeah, every year more and more of those billion-dollar budgets are going to production studios and special effects suites and editing classes, because the cops, even though they already have their Copaganda in the form of their press releases and them getting literally written out word for word by a multitude of news organizations, feel that that isn't enough. So now they're going to produce their own Copaganda instead of just giving their releases to the media and forcing them to Copaganda for them. They're literally just skipping the middleman. Nick Perez, a current police officer who started and starred in the hyper-popular Miami Police Department YouTube channel, told me that when his unit began the channel, they were seeing a lot of outrage over police violence online. Quote, back in 2015, it was a very anti-police atmosphere that was going on around social media. There was no real pro-police side. Nobody speaking on behalf of the police departments. The result, he said, was, okay, now here's the police side. But we were doing it to reach out to our community as the Miami Police Department. However, we kind of took on the role of pro-police content that was coming out. Yeah, this is great. We literally have cops who are trying to become social media influencers. Like, what happens once they get 1 million subscribers? Do they get like a sponsorship from gun manufacturers? This sounds like an incredibly bad fucking plan that's going to go from bad to worse. Other police agencies caught on, he said, and suddenly, with the idea of reaching our community, we kind of reached the world. Oh, look, it literally just went from bad to worse because now other cops and other fucking police stations are copying this. Wow, it's like I'm a goddamn fucking psychic and I can tell the future. Quote, The news was running stories about police. Whatever was happening with police in a negative light. But all we were doing was showing what we were doing, which in turn made people say, let's share their positive story. There was a lot of anti-police rhetoric, and we were the positive story coming out around that time. Perez's YouTube videos have also significantly boosted recruitment for the department. In their most recent video, after posting, Perez said they got more than 1,000 new job applications in just 12 hours. Hey, wow, it's almost like social media actually works. It's almost as if you can control a narrative if you put out enough good content and you have enough partners to help push that content around and get it lots of views and clicks. In other words, the police are now trying to do what everybody else in the world is doing, plus also, policing, which is apparently now a distant third priority behind becoming a social influencer and shooting unarmed suspects. Whoa. It's so clear the reason these videos exist is to block and attempt to affect the public's demand for police reform. The police are saying, we don't really need this. We're really nice guys already doing really good work and helping people. But we know that is, in reality, not the case. I'm old enough to remember when Copaganda was like videos on Facebook in the early 2010s, which would have like white police officers playing basketball with young black kids in a predominantly black area, because of course, white cops never seem to, patrol the communities that they actually live in. They always live in a suburb like 45 minutes away from all the people where all these black kids live who are playing basketball. But don't worry, every once in a while, Officer Smiley comes out and dribbles, plays a little basketball with them. They get it on video. Hey, look at the neighborhood cops. They love these kids. Yeah, great. So glad that they've really upped their game and now they're becoming social media influencers. Look out, Tim Pool. The cops aren't coming for you. They're just coming for your gig. And now, stop number 3 on our Copaganda tour, which is network programming. Your reminder that almost half of all major network primetime programming exists to put over the state, the military, and the people who serve them. Here, let's scroll down the 2022 Primetime TV Guide, which includes the following shows: NCIS Hawaii, 911 Lone Star, FBI International, FBI Most Wanted. Because 3 hours of FBI programming is better than 2. Chicago PD, which conveniently comes on right after Chicago Fire, which comes on right after Chicago Med, because part of modern propaganda is lumping police in with the fire and EMT people and calling them all first responders so that the cops can engender some of the goodwill that those other agencies have because they don't walk into people's houses unannounced and kill them. Law and Order Special Victims Unit, Law and Order Organized Crime, because much like the FBI, you can never have too much law and order. Just ask the state. Blue Bloods, everybody's favorite story about 4 generations of cops all living under one roof because, gosh darn it, they are just Americana. And of course, what weekend would be complete without 2 hours of Crime Time Saturday, followed by The Equalizer, NCIS Los Angeles, The Rookie, and SWAT. So what does all this mean for you, the average viewer at home, the fellow member of the working class? Well, it means that in the last decade, like 1 billion fucking smartphones have hit the streets, and now there are cameras everywhere. And the age-old police methodology of indoctrinating everybody through network television programs and then putting out shitty press releases when they do kill people has sort of been rendered moot. Gosh darn technology and those kids and their Facegrams and their Instabooks and their Twitter talks. Man, they made it really difficult to be a cop. Maybe I should reflect on the last decade of all these police killings that have been caught on video that have literally caused people to light the nation on fire and civil unrest. Yeah, maybe, Nah. The problem can't be us, the police. No, the problem is the kids and the social media. So here's what we're going to do. Instead of spending millions of dollars to, I don't know, do actual training to learn how to de-escalate situations and not kill people, we're just going to spend millions of dollars on becoming social media influencers and fighting fire with fire. And by the police saying fight fire with fire, I mean fighting actual footage of what actually happened in reality with highly polished social media propaganda. So people, I beg of you, whenever you leave the house, make sure you got your phone with you and you know how to hit the camera button and record. Also, please, record sideways, not up and down. Sideways, it gives more people a better view of the overall situation when you capture footage of police doing some shit they shouldn't do. Thank you in advance for your service. Until next time, my name is James. I am from the internet, and I am out. Peace.